Isaac has been asking questions and has been a free spirit seeking all his life. He had an enormous intellect and a gigantic spirit. There are people who get into drugs and alcohol as an escape from a difficult family or some other personal trauma. But that's not Isaac's story. Anyone who knows him or his family knows that. Isaac was seeking after something within himself, within life, that he could not describe and he could not fully understand. He had the spirit of an explorer, an adventurer, and he was determined to plumb the depths of consciousness, wherever they would take him. It was because he sensed, as Rumi says in the poem I just read, that there was something much bigger that he was a part of and that he was meant to do. He sensed that he was meant to fly. I've discovered over the years that a lot of people who get into drugs are really deeply spiritual people who have confused the spiritual drive that's within them with a toxic substitute. Because of their great sensitivity and spirit, such people mistake the experience that they get from drugs with the capacity of their own soul. I have to explain it like this. You know when you fall in love for the first time? The first time it happens, you're amazed by the intense feelings and sensations of love that you're experiencing that you've never experienced before. We usually think that it's the person who we've fallen in love with that has made us feel these incredible feelings. But in fact, what we are really experiencing is our own soul's capacity for love. We hang it on the other person as if it is him or her that makes us feel this way. And sure, they play a critical part. But in fact, what we are experiencing for the first time is our own ability to feel such feelings. And so even though it comes through that person and our relationship with them, it is not really about that other person. And that's why when or if we lose our first love, we may lose that relationship, but we do not lose our ability or our capacity for love. It's very similar when it comes to drugs. The first time someone gets high or drunk, they experience something that they've never experienced before. Sometimes it's awful, but sometimes it's a positive experience that they feel, feelings of euphoria or an incredible sense of joy or a sense of being connected. And like with love, when this happens for the first time, we think that it's the drug. And while the drug may be the vehicle for those feelings, what we're really experiencing is our own soul's capacity for joy and connection and ecstasy. The problem is that we get confused and think that it's about the drug, when in fact, something about our own soul and spirit we're coming to understand. And the drug is really a demon dressed up like a god. Some people look for love in all the wrong places. Drugs is seeking spirituality in the wrong places. The saddest part is that people initially feel that the drugs give them the ability to soar to great heights and makes them feel as if their spirit is free like a bird. When in fact, on a profound level, it's the opposite that's true. Ultimately, drugs clip the wings of our soul. And in time, they turn our spirit into a caged bird. And the soul, which yearns to fly high, ends up trapped instead of free. Ever since he died, I've been dreaming about Isaac. And I believe this is a message that he wanted me to share with you today. First of all, he wants you to know that it's not your fault. Whoever you are in his life, he wants you to know it's not your fault. Isaac does not want anyone to live with guilt or a sense of blame for what happened to him. It was his doing, and it was his mistake. And if you know Isaac, you know that he's embarrassed about it. He truly thought that he was smart enough to play with fire and not get burned. And he's sad to be missing out on the rest of his life, a life with all of you. But the last thing he wants is for anyone else's life to be saddled with a sense of blame for what he's done to himself. And the other part of his message is for his peers, many of whom I see here this morning. He wants to say to all the other deeply spiritual, sensitive, and passionate people who've walked with him on the smoke-filled path of highs and lows, please don't let me die in vain. Please. Learn from my mistakes and save your own precious life while you still can. Know that what you truly seek is spiritual. Isaac really wants his death to strengthen our hold on this wonderful life and all its possibilities. Please know that in honor of Isaac, outside this sanctuary today, there are some flyers with resources for addiction recovery and grief support. And if you or someone you know is struggling with drugs or alcohol addiction or needs help with grief, please have compassion and take a flyer and give it to him. Share them so that Isaac will not have died in vain. In the Jewish tradition, they say if you save one life, you've saved the entire world. After the service, there will also be care team members from our church with badges on. And they're trained in talking to people about grief. No one is alone here today. If you'd like to talk to someone, there's someone here for you. And also, in the library, where you see the windows as you walk out of this sanctuary, there are counselors from Palmer Drug Treatment Center who would be happy to talk to anyone confidentially. If you have any questions about drugs or addiction, if you need help or you have a friend or family member that needs help, talk to them. Do you realize that Isaac's peer group has lost 3 young men in a year's time to drugs, drug-related death? And he's the second in the past 2 months. Let us all pull together to help one another to stop the bleeding once and for all. Let us do it for Isaac. Let us pledge today to do it for Isaac and to do it for those others. Those of us who can see in our minds their beautiful faces. We owe it to them. And we owe it to each other. Amen.